Plan B.
Well, the BIA pod is back.
Sure.
Took a little bit of a hiatus after the Big Ten championship game. Did not go in our favor.
Oh yeah, I
However,
forgot. I forgot we lost that game. I was
yeah,
like, "What are you talking about?" We did lose that game.
yeah, that's not why we didn't record. But just wanted to take a little bit of a break after the season. Had a long layoff, like the Buckeyes do. They were able to snag that number 2 spot, so they got an automatic bye from the first round, uh, and we face the Miami Hurricanes, who beat the Texas A&M Aggies, and 10-3, lowest scoring game in the first round. It was a windy game. A lot of people are blaming it on the wind, um, and good defenses, good defensive play, but getting ahead of myself, Phil. It's been a minute. You hadn't talked in a while.
Yeah, actually.
How are the holidays? How are things going?
Yeah, we actually haven't talked in a while. It's holidays were the holidays, man. In some ways, happy to get through them. Other ways, had some really special moments. Um, Not excited for the New Year's. It's like kind of my least favorite holiday on the calendar is New Year's Eve. I hate New Year's Eve. It is it is just like a recipe for disappointment. There's like so much pressure on it, and it's so hard for it to be fun and so hard for it to be affordable and almost impossible for it to be both. And sometimes Ohio State has the misfortune of playing on New Year's Eve like we do this year, and it's just terrible because it just kind of ruins your plans. If you're a fan, especially if you're more of a fan than your partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, then you got to kind of build your New Year's Eve plans around this game. They might not be happy about that. They don't want us to be great. They're trying to break up happy homes in the playoff committee. That's the way they get it. They get at the Buckeyes. Is they break up the nuclear family.
Well, my spouse is actually not the one who I have to worry about this year. It's my mom. My mom is she's wanting to pray before New Year's,
Oh,
before the ball
right, like a watch night kind of thing, like right at midnight.
11:30.
Ooh, that's even worse. That's even worse.
And I can't be like everybody who has asked me what plans I have. I said, I'm watching the game, watching the game, watching the game. My mom calls me and says, "Hey, we trying to pray at 11:30 on New Year's Eve?" And I'm like,
Bro, that is literally
sure.
the worst possible time because that's basically going to be what the game's going to end. I was trying to explain to my friend yesterday that college football games are way longer than NFL games. It doesn't make any sense
Yeah,
why they would be, but I was like, it's easy for them to go 4 hours. So you're right at that 4 hour mark, like assuming that we have an on time start and there's no halftime show. That it's going to be like what you got to hope for is a a easy victory. You got to hope for a high margin
yeah.
victory, and then you're gonna step away from that game. You're gonna be happy on the phone with your mom. You're gonna be like, "Hey y'all, ain't God good? Ain't God good?" That's what you gonna say
Yeah.
when the game is in hand in the third quarter.
So we can transition into that because I was thinking the same thing. We have a great cushion of a lead, then I'll feel great, especially with as time is ticking in that fourth quarter. I'll be good. So yeah, we want to talk first off about keys to the game. Let's just first say how are we feeling? Like what vibes do we have going into this game? Because I'm saying I feel good. I feel great. Buckeyes are healthy. Buckeyes are rested. I do feel though that Miami has a few key players and a few key spots that we need to watch out for. And if we don't, then it could get a little tight. You know what I mean? But I do feel that Ohio State is the better team, and I want us to play like that and be confident in what we do.
Yeah, I think vibes wise, it's kind of hard to tell because we haven't seen them play in a couple of weeks. I mean, last year the teams that had the buys did very, very poorly. And so that is going to be interesting to see. If you're Miami, you know what the team looks like because you just saw them play. And for Ohio State, Georgia, Indiana, Texas Tech, we don't know how they're going to come out. So I don't feel I don't feel bad about it, but I don't feel like I know how this team is going to start this game. Versus last year going into the second round, you kind of knew that Ohio State had momentum. Um, Now I just hope they have momentum. I don't actually know. A good thing is that Miami didn't come off of like a super impressive. Like they didn't wow anybody. They just won a game against a good team. But it's not like they're coming in where it's like, damn, they're so hot right now. It's like, no, they're literally not hot at
Yeah.
all, at least offensively.
There's a few people in the national media who are wowed by their ten
There
to
were people
three.
who've been wowed by them who said it's Miami and everybody else is a distant second after like week
Yeah.
two. So, the same people, people want to be right. So they said that early. It started looking stupid halfway through the season. Now they get to go back and say, "Oh yeah, yeah, I always knew Miami. You can look at week one. I told you guys, Miami was actually the best team in the country." Okay.
So, what keys to the game? What keys to the game do you have for us to you know have a successful win in this game?
You want to start on offense?
Yeah, let's do. Let's start on the offensive side.
Okay. So for offensive, for me, the key is my guy, Ryan Daniel Day. Okay,
He's not a middle
because
name. I didn't even know that was his middle name.
I made it up. Ryan Daniel Day Lewis. Because here's the thing, Ryan Day is calling the plays. He is the HHIC, and he is going to be the one. I just think it's going to be really important when you talk about last year and talk about. I mentioned earlier we had momentum coming into round two. There's the two similarities between the similarity between the Tennessee game and the Oregon game for Ohio State last year was starting fast, and it was being aggressive and throwing the ball down the field. Now, when we did that last year, we had Will Howard, who had struggled to throw the ball down the field all season, or he was very inconsistent all season, and so it wasn't expected for us to play like that. This year, we've seen some of that with Sand, certainly more of that, but I want to see the the play calling ramped up in terms of the aggression and trying to start fast. I think that's going to be so important for this team, and especially important, to make sure there's no rust. Just like come out, be aggressive, establish a lead, and then let this defense play from a position of having the lead. I think that's the most important thing. So I got Ryan Day as a play caller being the most important part of our offense in this game.
Well, for me, on the offensive side of the ball, is to play with tempo, stay on schedule, and you're gonna love this last one.
Uh-oh. Run the
Show
ball
the
with
next.
CJ Donaldson.
No, no. Show the next gear. We've been talking about where is this next gear gonna be, and I think all seriousness, like just playing with tempo is gonna really help us. You can't play on tempo and not stay on schedule, right? So I think that to get their Miami's pass rushers tired and to get them subbed at the game and all of that,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be really interesting to see if we can have some drives like we did in Oregon, right? I mean, those guys were gassed, and I think a big part of that was the fact that we did attack their weakness, which was their secondary, and I expect for us to do that in this game as well with Ryan Day calling plays. So yeah, play with tempo, show that next gear, whatever that may look like. Um, and then on the defensive side of the ball, I can go first here. Is just pretty much stay consistent and just be you. I mean, we've the most amount of points we've given up this year has been 16
Mm-hmm.
against Illinois, and this was on a road. You know, a lot of people have been giving us flack for the fact that we haven't played anybody. And it's so interesting because some of these SEC teams have not been, you know, SEC teams, ACC teams haven't been doing well so far in these bowl games. So I get the fact that they have had some people sit out of the game and whatnot. But you know, it is what it is. I just think that the Big Ten seems to show up. I don't know in bowl games. Anyways, I say all that to say, I mean, 16 points. Been the most amount of points we've given up we only gave up 13 points against the best offense that we played, and that was Indiana. And so is Miami's offense better than Indiana's? I don't think so. And so I do expect that Matt Patricia is going to throw some things out there that we haven't seen, just so that the defense can flex a little bit. But I mean, you know, we'll get to the score prediction in a second and just say for me, I just have sort of, as we've done these score predictions in the past, it's like, how much do we need to win? So, um, yeah, how many
Okay.
points do we need to score to keep the other team from beating that score? So, yeah.
For me, I'm going to go with the key defensively is going to be for Ohio State to stop the run. Mark Fletcher had a great game in Miami's game against Texas A&M. Their offense was bad in that game, but Mark Fletcher was a bright spot. Mark Fletcher, former Ohio State commit. I remember that recruitment. I definitely wanted him. We lost a bunch of running backs in a row, but we no longer have that running back coach. He might not have a job actually because we don't know. But anyway, that's enough about that team up north. But Mark Fletcher ran the ball. Honestly, he had a lot of big chunk plays in that game that kind of helped them end up getting points on the board at the very end of that game. But to me, Carson Beck is a pretty talented passer, but I want him feeling like he's got to win the game because he also can make mistakes. He's actually like a surprisingly accurate quarterback. I think he might have been actually second in accuracy percentage wise behind Sand this year. Like he is actually a pretty accurate quarterback, but when he does make mistakes, he throws picks. I would want to see his numbers for like percentage of completions that are actually interceptions is probably like the highest in the country. But so, and when he does throw interceptions, he often throws them in bunches. He usually has like games where he has 3 or 4 picks. And so I don't know. I'm not predicting that, but I do think that if Ohio State can stop the run and make them one dimensional, their passing attack was nowhere to be found last game. So you can stop that run. I trust our secondary. I trust our defensive line to rush, but K-Mac in the middle, plugging the gaps, stop the run, and receivers, and the linebackers and Styles and Reese being able to stop runs from bouncing on the outside. I think if they do that and you're making Carson Beck throw the ball 35, times in this game, I think that's a win for Ohio State.
Yeah, I think if they could go back and replay that A&M game, they would have ran the ball earlier, more consistently. I think, um, you know, and then just since we're talking about Miami players now with Mark Fletcher, that was one of my actually the person who I had as my key player of the game,
Hmm.
or players to watch, I should say. He had Mark Fletcher had 17 touches for 172 yards last game, 10 rushes per attempt. So, I'm sorry, 10 yards per attempt. His now the longest run he had was 56 yards. If you take that out, he still has over 100 yards for 16 touches. Um, so, and I was telling you during the middle of that game, I did say it was a mid off. I mean, I wasn't really using the wind as an excuse as to why they couldn't pass the ball, or why they weren't completing passes. But Fletcher was getting through that first line of defense against A&M, a good defensive line in A&M, and getting to the secondary at times. And I was just thinking to myself, like, why are they not doing this more? Well, they figured it out in the fourth quarter, and
Mhm.
because of that 56-yard run, it set up Malachi Tony. I was kind of doing this little bet with myself how many times I was going to say Kadarius Tony on the on the pod, but Malachi it set up a touchdown for Malachi Tony on it was like an end around. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's my main player on the offensive side that that I'm watching for Miami. So
Yeah, for me, I'm gonna just say like the receiving core in general for Miami. I mean, again, they did not pass the ball well. Tony was a threat on to receive, but he didn't have that many receptions or yards, and so it was like they were trying to take him away, and they did, and they had no other threat. Before the game, a lot of people said that CJ Daniels, one of the wide receivers, is going to have a big game potentially, or that he has in other games. But if you look at their receptions for the year, Malachi Tony has 89, so he has almost 90. The second leading receiver for Miami has only 44. So basically half of those receptions. Next one has 37. So there's like it's kind of Tony or bust. And I think that's just tough when you're going against a quality defense. If you're telling them, hey, this is the one guy that we have who's a threat to catch the ball. Again, they have other talented receivers. So these other guys are talented. So they obviously could do it, but they clearly haven't done it consistently throughout the season. So I think that one of those guys is going. I feel confident that Ohio State's defense can take away one receiver. Can the other guy step up? We look at the Indiana game. Other receivers stepped up, right? They had a receiver go out. They had another receiver, Surratt, still play pretty well, and they had I forgot the other guy's name now, but he caught like at least 2 huge catches against us. It's like the other guys, as Shaq likes to say when he's doing analysis, the other guys are the key to the game, and I think the other guys in this receiver room for Miami are the key to the game. Can we stop Marion and Daniels from having big third down catches in the fourth quarter? That's going to be the game. We couldn't do it against Indiana. So, I love our defense. They could not do that against Indiana. Your boy BTA Minister was getting the belt on himself. So BIA has to step up, not just Iggy stopping the number one guy, not just Caleb Downs, who might be one-on-one with Tony. We need everybody to stop the other receivers. Shout out to Iggy though, man. He's been holding us down. Don't throw to him. But the other guys got to step up if they're not throwing to Iggy.
With the receiver from Indiana you're talking about, Gus kept on saying he was from Nashville or something like that. I think that's who you're referring to.
He plays the right way. Yeah. Scrappy receiver. First in the gym, last one out.
I predict he will be in a New England Patriots in the near future.
He's gonna ace the interview, as they say. Yeah, he's gonna do well on interview day. Shout out to him.
Any more players for you to watch on Miami side?
No, I mean obviously defensively they have 2 great defensive linemen, and so. But I mean, to me, I gotta wait and see it if I think these guys are going to be game wreckers in a game against Ohio State. I don't know. I didn't see that in that game against Texas A&M. I didn't see their defensive linemen like where you see somebody pop and it's like, oh wow, this guy can't be stopped. This guy they got to bring a double, and the running backs going to have to chip every time. Like I didn't see anybody kick out. Obviously they have a lot of talent, and that's what people I think are going to talk about is their defensive line. They have talent on both edges and at tackle. But I personally didn't see it. They're going to have to show that to me against our offensive line.
Yeah, I'm with you. Well, let's get to the score predictions then for the Cotton Bowl here. All right. My prediction is that Ohio State wins 21-10. I look at this game, 21 points. I'm hoping that we do score more than 21, but do we need to score more than 21 is the actual question. I mean, obviously, if it's going to be there to score, they're going to score. But I just want, first of all touchdowns, no field goal attempts. No, I don't want to even an attempt. I don't want an attempt. I'm on board with you in terms of going against our kicker. I have no idea if is it Fleming? I forgot his name already. I'm sorry. I just kind of say again.
Jaden Fielding, our kicker.
Jaden Fielding, excuse me. Yes, Jaden Fielding. I said Fleming. It's Fielding. I put him in the recycling bin in my mind. I just, I'm with you. I just want to see all touchdowns, no attempts. I will hold my breath every time he goes back if he is going to be the kicker. Nothing against the kid, but
I got a lot against the kid. We clear one of us on the pod has nothing against him. It ain't me.
But I also think just like 21 is what we need to win, and I know this is one of those things a Miami fan can clip if they end up beating us 24-21. But I just 10 points, man. Again, the best offense that we faced this year on a neutral field didn't go above 13. So, yeah, 21-10.
and they were highly motivated. And that's a team that loves to score points. Indiana, it's not like Indiana's like, oh, well, we like to play low scoring
Yeah.
game. They love to put 40. They would have loved to do it against Ohio State. For my prediction, I'm going to go with Ohio State 24, Miami 14. Kind of in the same
Okay.
vein. I'm going 2 touchdowns. The kicking was a little bit rough for them last week. So they might be a little bit anxious as well about kicking, even though, again, like you said,
Mhm.
they can blame the wind. So I'm going to go with 14 points for them, 2 touchdowns, still underneath the Ohio State bar of 17 points that they've had all season. And I'm going to go with one field goal. I am giving Fielding one field goal. I'm giving him a field goal when it's already 21. When it's already 21, we're up. We have 21 points. The last three are the field goal when it doesn't count, when it doesn't matter. Either the first three or the last three. That's why I think when he's still somewhat able to be proficient when there's absolutely zero pressure. So yeah, I've got it being a pretty close game. I mean, the spread is actually 9.5. So I'm kind of probably giving exactly what Vegas is predicting. I didn't think about that, but I think that's kind of right. Um, but I hope the order of it is we're up and they're scoring at the end, and then we kick a field goal when they get to 14-21. Then we kick a field goal to kind of like ice it after a long drive of running the ball.
Well, yeah, we are the first of four other playoff games. We play on New Year's Eve, like we mentioned. The next three games are happening on New Year's Day. So since we did prediction for the score, we wanted to go over the next three games and just say who we were going to predict as the winner. So let's go ahead and start off with that first game on the slate, the Orange Bowl, Oregon versus Texas Tech. Since I went first for the score prediction, I'll let you go ahead and go first for this game.
Guns up, baby. I don't know if
Okay.
that's theirs or not. I can't remember between them and Oklahoma State. I can't remember which one is guns up, but they both are shooters. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with Texas Tech. I've got Texas Tech winning. I mean, I am an Oregon hater, so that's probably why I'm picking this pick. But I just think that they are a 4 seed who's getting. And the spread is actually pretty small for Vegas wise, like one and a
One and a
half
half.
points has been like that. But I
You
would
said
imagine
you said two and one and a half.
1.5.
One really? Okay, I'm looking at two and a half on the Yahoo. Okay.
Okay, maybe it's might have shifted. It's been one and
Maybe.
a half like a week. It was one
Yeah.
and a half when it opened, so yeah, it might have shifted recently. But I feel like 80% of the money is on Oregon. I think 80% of the expert picks are on Oregon, and so I just think that a lot of people haven't watched a lot of Texas Tech games this year, myself included, and I think
Yeah.
that there's a little bit of bias. But it's like this team is really talented, and they have the results to show it. They've earned their spot as the 4 seed. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt here.
Yeah, I've got Tech as well. For a lot of the reasons you said, their defensive line and just their defense in general, they are, uh, you know, they're up there within that top three, top five defenses in the country. And offensively, that's where I do think that um, for Texas Tech, where they may not be able to obviously like match up with Oregon. This can't be a track meet,
Yeah,
um,
definitely not.
and so I've got Tech um, beating the Ducks. All right, so going to the Rose Bowl. My heart wants to go again, wants to go for Bama, but my head is going for Indiana. So I'm picking Indiana to beat the Crimson Tide in the Rose Bowl.
Is your heart an SEC fan? Why do you want to root for Alabama?
No, 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 no. It's
Interesting
the
chat.
reason. The, the
Go ahead.
reason. The reason.
Go ahead.
The reason why is because I think that if you get rid of Indiana in the others on the other side of the bracket, to me, that's a team that we don't have to worry about. But I do want to rematch them. I mean, I do want to rematch them. But if Alabama beats them, then all they did this year was they beat us in the Big Ten championship game. They were able to get the number one seed in the big dance, so to speak, and then they lost their first playoff game that they played that year. So I think that's part of the reason why. It's
You're a
more
hater.
so you said, yeah, sure, next year. Indiana, I think it's more so going against Indiana than going for Bama.
See, I don't hate Indiana. I feel like Indiana just hasn't been good enough long enough for me to feel any like animosity towards them. I'm not a fan of them, but like they just don't move me in that kind of way. And I think that it's good for the Big Ten if Indiana is able to beat Alabama. That's a team in the SEC. That's the kind of thing where people would say, Alabama play Indiana, they'll beat them by 3 touchdowns. Like that's the kind of thinking that people have with the brand of Alabama versus the brand of Indiana, but also with the brand of the SEC versus the Big Ten. And so if you're the Big Ten, you're trying to prove that you're more than just Ohio State and Oregon. I think you need Indiana to be able to beat an SEC team that gets a lot of love, but isn't actually that good this year. This is a good test. Like if Indiana is good, or if the Big Ten is good, then the team that wins the Big Ten should be able to beat this Alabama team. So I'm pulling for the Hoosiers. I'm gonna go ahead and pick them. I think that Sig will have this team fired up for this game. This is a big prove it game for him. Again, this is a lot. If they lose this game, you're correct. I'm just not rooting for it. You're correct in the sense that it'll kind of wash away a lot of what they accomplished. Not even this year, the last 2 years. The same way that everything they accomplished last year got erased when they got beat in the playoffs. The same thing will happen again this year if they get beat. And so I just I think it's good for the Big Ten to have another team that's respected nationally, and this will go a long way for that.
All right. So for the last
Oh, wait,
game,
one more quick question. So I remember before you said that, like, when the bracket first came out, you were talking about. I guess this kind of feeds into next game. Ole Miss plays Georgia. You were talking about how when we lost the Big Ten championship, that you wish that we would have dropped to the 3rd seed so that we could play Ole Miss because Ole Miss doesn't have Lane Kiffin. We'll get back to that matchup in a second. But if we had won the Big Ten championship, that means we would have been playing Alabama. So I'm curious, would you rather play Alabama or Miami? Which basically just think about, like, was it better that we lost, even though we still got the tougher team between the 2 and 3 seed, but did we get the easier team compared to the 1 seed?
no, I'd rather play Miami. I'd rather play Miami. I mean, Miami wasn't even in their conference's championship game, and
Tough conference. Tough conference.
shout out to Danny Cannell. Um, yeah, no, I'd rather play Miami. Alabama, I feel like we saw what happens if they get it going during a game, and they did against an Oklahoma team with a really good defense who was stifling them early on, and then they just got hot. Alabama just got hot, and so yeah, I don't want to. I don't want to know what that's like to face that. I'm not saying that they sustain that through an entire game against Ohio State, but yeah, I'd rather just go against Miami and then head on
Okay.
to
It
the
was a
next
good
round.
thing we lost. That's what I'm trying to say. It's a good thing that
Yeah,
we lost the championship game because even though we didn't fall all the way to 3, it's arguable that Alabama is a tougher matchup than both Ole Miss and Miami. But as you were talking about setting up, the 6 seed Ole Miss plays the 3 seed Georgia Bulldogs. Is it my turn to go first? Your turn.
I forgot. I think it's your turn. It's your turn.
My turn. Okay. I want to pick Ole Miss here. I like that they have a dynamic quarterback in Trinidad Chambliss. I think that matters. I like the analogy of the NCAA tournament in basketball having a high scoring point guard. That's why I picked Florida to win last year. You might recall because I beat you in the bracket challenge. And I think the same thing is true kind of for Ole Miss. They have that dynamic leader with the ball in his hand. But I'm gonna go with Georgia. I think that they've started to click, and I do believe this Georgia team has a lot to prove. I think that they're kind of on the verge of like a bit of a fall off. If you just think about the fact that they haven't really been dominant the last couple of years, and they lost in the first round for their first game last year. If they lose again in their first game, the questions start to be at. Are you laughing at this?
Because I'm not laughing at your take. I'm laughing at the fact that you caught me on tape talking about how there was no way that Duke was going to lose to. I think it was it Texas Tech? Was it Texas
I
Tech or
get every
Houston?
one of those teams. in Texas.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
he was very confident. This man, it was the funniest part was it was after you had the wrong pick before. You were like, okay, I know I was wrong last time, but there's no way I'm gonna be wrong this time.
if we got to make that into a clip if we can find it. I don't know if you still have it,
Oh,
but
the audio. Yeah, we'll
that
see.
would be hilarious. That would be. I know that it's got nothing to do with college football, but it was definitely everything I was saying on there was I was I was I was in my bag. Was in my bag. But yeah. Okay, so you got Georgia. I'm going Ole Miss. I'm
Mm.
going Ole Miss. I think that this is an inspired team. This is one of those picks where I know I'm gonna regret later. Um, but I'm gonna take it
They're down
anyway.
21 at halftime.
Yeah. I'm going I'm going with David versus Goliath in this. Not that it's super, mismatched game. I mean, Georgia is favored by 6.5. That's the spread that I'm looking at on Yahoo. Um, but
I mean, and
yeah,
they
I'm
played earlier
just
this year, so we've seen this game
yeah,
before.
I'm hoping that Ole Miss fans travel. We know that Georgia fans are going to travel to New Orleans for this, and hoping for also us to match up against Ole Miss in the next round. But yeah, Georgia's the better team. But I think that Ole Miss, if they can get more scores on a few more possessions than they did last time they played, then I think they win.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you remember the game script from last time these two teams played. I think I bet on this game, but Ole Miss played really well in the beginning of this game. Georgia came out and scored 17 in the second quarter to kind of come back and really whatever. But then Ole Miss scored 14. Well, they won the third quarter 14-6. In the fourth quarter, Ole Miss scored 0 points and Georgia scored 17 points in the fourth quarter. 17-0 in the fourth quarter that's bad. That game was at Georgia, but that was definitely a game that Lane had, and then Georgia just to your favorite phrase put up to another gear, and they had another gear in that fourth quarter, and so I mean that's it's hard for me to forget that they have that gear and that I've seen them turn it on and beat Ole Miss. And so it's just like if they have it on, then they should win this game. But I'll be happy if I'm wrong and Ole Miss wins. Partially because I rather play Ole Miss for sure, and then partially because I think it's good for college football for there to be some upsets. There were a lot last year, I guess, in this round, and so
Mhm.
I hope there's all upsets except in our game.
Yeah, well, I do want to say this one thing before we end the pod. Just thinking back on the Fiesta Bowl that we played back in 2002.
Oh,
Yeah, because it had to be the New Year for that year. Listen, I grew up hating Miami. I hated Miami. I just hated the players that went there. I hated them always winning. I hated the way that they played. I hated everything about Miami. Ohio State played Miami, and that was one of that was one of the best games I'd ever seen. Never thought about the pass interference. That didn't think about the pass interference penalty as the reason why Ohio State won that game. They tied that game, as a result, and then ended up going ahead. But I say that to say that I want this to be a definitive victory, put to bed all the excuses. We've got so many Miami fans who are saying that they are looking for redemption in this game, and I just want there to be no hope. I just want there to be no hope in this game for the Buckeyes to go out and do the thing. I have never wanted us to win a playoff game as bad as this one. I will say that just on the pod. I don't know if I'll ever say that unless we go against the team up north in a playoff game, but hopefully not. But yeah,
that's yeah, we should definitely mention that game. I mean, I think I think
I
that Miami has not. Miami is a very proud program. They have nothing to show for it since that game. So if you're thinking about the perception of that team versus the actual results, that is where you can find the last time they were actually accomplishing anything of merit. So I get why they're still mad about it. If you think about it, why are they still mad 20 years later? Because they haven't done anything since. If Miami had won championships, if Miami had ever won the ACC, then maybe they wouldn't care so much about this game. But they were on the high of basically being like the best, the most talented team ever, right? They're coming off of that high of like, we might be the best to ever play this sport, to then losing to Ohio State and then never reaching the mountaintop. That's tough. So I get why they're still mad about it. They're gonna be mad if they lose this game still. I mean, but I hear you. You don't want. I hear you saying like you want it to be definitive, and I also want to shut them up. I just want to shut their fans up. They haven't done anything, and every time they're close, they just revert right back to the same boastful nature as if they've done anything. But they still can't point to anything since that game in 2002 that anybody should be impressed by, except unless you're like Duke. If you're Duke, you're probably like, hey, that's Miami doing pretty well the last couple decades. Anybody else is like, no, that's garbage. So yeah, there's a lot of questionable calls in that game. Usually when a team loses a game and there's a questionable call or even like a missed field goal, what do they say? It's not one play that lost us that game. Yeah, except Miami fans. Miami fans think it was one call that lost them that game, even though it wasn't even like they still had other. It's not like it was the very last thing that happened. So it's like it wasn't the first questionable call and it wasn't the last play of the game. I don't understand. I do understand it, but it's laughable to me that they're still butthurt about it. But
well, yeah, in the words of Ryan, what'd you say? Middle name?
Ryan Daniel Day.
Ryan Daniel Day. Leave no doubt. Leave no doubt. OH.
IO. Bucks.